The first thing you want to do, obviously, is to think about what you want to write about. So, are you going to write about how smartphones maybe have some problems? Are you going to write about how social media is a way to really connect with people from afar? Are you going to write about how technology makes us distracted and disconnected from each other? Or maybe you're going to write about how technology, particularly the internet, allows us to do more academic research than we've ever had before. So obviously, we know with technology, it's a big topic and it's not cut and dry. It's not clear cut in any way. There's a lot of nuance to it, which means that there are, of course, some things that are awesome about computers. The fact that you can take this course online is really great, but there are also some issues. And what you're going to do in your essay is to come up with a really narrow part of technology to talk about. So you're not going to argue technology is awesome or technology is bad, but you're going to pick some element of a form of technology like the iPhone. And you're going to say, for example, the iPhone is problematic in these three ways. In the fact that people can get distracted in their daily life, maybe they can get distracted academically, and maybe the smartphone is causing some medical problems in terms of what it's doing to our eyeballs. Whatever you want to argue is fine, but you're going to keep it kind of narrow. And this structure is going to allow you to just get a sense of how to make that argument, how to structure it. So you're going to probably write about 5 paragraphs, and here's how. The analytical essay writing acronym. So in your first paragraph, you're going to begin with some background information. Let's say that you're writing about how phones can be distracting, and one of your points is about educational environments. Well, you can give some background that's a story that tells a personal anecdote or a story that tells about how you used your phone to look up words in class. That could be a type of background information that kind of grabs the reader and gives you background on how you're narrowing your topic. Maybe you're going to give just some background information about the iPhone 10, right? If that's what you're going to be talking about. It's basically to get your reader into this content. So you're going to give us something that's going to get us thinking about your topic. Okay? So that's the first part, background information. Maybe that's about 3 or 4 sentences. It's whatever you need to convey your point. You're in your first paragraph, right? So you've tabbed it. You've made sure that the essay is double spaced. You have your MLA heading on it beforehand. Okay, and then you are going to give your background information. After that, you're going to give your thesis statement. And your thesis statement is your overall main idea and then the 3 examples that you're going to use. I just want to write a sample here so that you can get a sense of it. So the main idea of your essay might be iPhones are, and I think it's going to have iPhones. Yeah, there we go. iPhones are a distraction academically, personally, we can say, and in terms of people's health. Okay, so for example, in this analysis, what you'd be doing is talking just about academics, people's personal lives, and then health. So you can see that the main idea here is, so we're going to highlight main idea for those of you who are visual learners, right? Main idea, here's your main idea right here. Okay, and then we have the 3 examples. So we'll highlight this in purple. Oops, we're going to highlight it in purple. Purple. There we go. 3 examples. Okay, here we go. Personally, right? Academically, and in terms of people's health. So you can see you got the main idea and then the 3 parts. This is a 3-part thesis. You've got the 3 points that you're going to talk about. Okay, this is your opinion, right? So you're gonna, and when you write this essay, this does not mean if you choose to write about the negatives of the iPhone, it doesn't mean that you don't think there are positives, right? You're just picking 3 things to talk about that are a problem, okay? Or 3 things to talk about that are really fantastic. So that's your first paragraph. You've given some background information. I'm trusting that you can do that without an example, either a story of your engagement with the iPhone or maybe a little bit of background about the history of a particular iPhone if you're talking about that, or iPhones in general. You just want to give us a little something to grab onto before you give us your thesis statement. All right, so you do that, you've got your paragraph. You've expanded it. Maybe it's about 5 sentences if you have enough background information. And then you're going to space down and hit tab again because you're on to your next paragraph. So let's scroll down here. And you can remember the first paragraph because the acronym spells BIT. You're going to give a bit of information at the start of your essay. So you say to yourself, okay, what do I have to put in? Okay, background information and then a thesis. Okay. Then after that, you are going to write your body paragraphs. That's the meat of your essay. That's where you're going to be supporting your argument that you've told the reader about in the first paragraph. So to do this, the acronym that I've devised is TELL, right? Because you're going to be telling your readers about your points. So your next paragraph is going to begin with a topic sentence. And that's going to be the main idea of your essay. So we put that in yellow here. We might as well put it in yellow here as well, right? Main idea of essay. And then the mention of your first example, okay? So first example goes here. Okay, so what would that be in this instance? Well, it looks like your first example was academically, right? And that your main idea was that iPhones were a distraction. So what's the first sentence of that paragraph going to be? iPhones are a distraction academically. You don't even have to change the language around, okay? iPhones are a distraction academically. You've got your main idea and then the first point that you're going to talk about. And then you just give examples to prove your point. So you can give examples from the readings that we talked about, or you can give examples from your own experience. For this particular essay, you're not required to bring in information from the readings that we've done so far. I haven't taught you how to do that. If you'd like to, you can give it a shot, and then I'll help you with it after the fact. Remember that you can't just copy and paste. You need to quote information if you are going to put it in, or summarize it and cite it. So if you don't yet know how to do that, don't worry about it. Use your own experiences and examples. So if your topic sentence here is iPhones are a distraction academically, we might as well write it. iPhones, are a distraction academically. So then you say to yourself, okay, how and what experience have I had that they've been a distraction academically? So then you give your example. So you might say, last year at Community College of Philadelphia, I was in this relationship and my boyfriend or girlfriend was texting me all the time during class and I kept getting frustrated, but I didn't know how to say anything about it because it was so distracting. I was getting lower grades and then I realized I wound up failing. Then I was on probation and I realized that had I put my iPhone away, I would have been able to study better. Okay, so that would be an example of the story you might tell in that paragraph. And then what you would do at the end of that storytelling, you'd remind us of your overall point. So you can say, my experience at Community College of Philadelphia last semester proves that iPhones are a distraction academically. Okay, so then really each body paragraph is doing that same thing, but with a different example. So when you're into the next part, right, we want the main idea of the essay again. So that should be yellow, okay? Main idea of the essay again. And then mention of your second example, okay? So we've got mention of your second example. Here we are. And we're going to put that in purple again. And your second example is what? Okay, personally. All right, so you want to come up with an example of how iPhones can be challenging for people personally. Okay, so maybe this is the paragraph where you're going to talk about social media and how bullying can happen online, and something you heard about maybe a couple weeks ago where someone was bullied online and then maybe committed suicide or something horrible like that. And you're going to talk about that experience and you can say that their personal life was really impacted. Their self-esteem was impacted because someone was bullying them online. Okay, you tell that story a little bit. That's your example. And then you remind us of your topic sentence again. You say that iPhones are a distraction personally. Okay? You can reword it a little bit if you want to. You don't have to. It's really very similar to your topic sentence. You're just reminding us of how what you talked about relates to your overall point. And that just helps your reader. They may have gotten really into your story and then they forget the overall point that you're making, and that link just helps them out. Now, hopefully you can get a sense of what happens in the next paragraph, right? The next thing that you were talking about is people's health. So you would do what? Main idea of the essay, which is, we might as well highlight this yellow again, right? And it's whoop. Let's highlight it in yellow. Okay, yellow. There we go. Okay, so iPhones are a distraction in terms of people's health. So here we have our mention of our third example, which is people's health. And then you might talk about the fact that iPhone needed to create a blue light because it was keeping people awake. And when people are awake, they don't get enough sleep, and that can impact their health, right? You can talk about like radiation if you think the iPhones are getting into our brains when they're up against our ears. Whatever you would like to talk about with regard to health in the iPhone. You tell that story and then you link it back to your thesis. You remind us of your topic sentence, okay? And this is how to make your essay nice and organized. This is a good structure that you can use over and over again in your papers in college. The last thing that you'll do is your conclusion. The acronym for the conclusion is REST, R-E-S-T. You're going to restate your thesis statement, which is what was all the way back up here. iPhones are a distraction academically, personally, and in terms of people's health. Then you're going to emphasize examples. You pick a couple that you thought were really powerful. Maybe your bullying example you think is really powerful because it's appealing to people's emotions. So you're going to say something like, as indicated in these paragraphs, this issue is so serious that people could lose their lives over it. Maybe you'd emphasize something that you said about relationships. People might have struggles with their intimate relationships because of phones, right? You're emphasizing the examples that you want people to remember. People are going to remember your last paragraph. Then here at the end of the paragraph, you're going to give us something to think about. And that could be just simply something you're directing to the reader, like imagine a world that did not have cell phones in it, right? Or you could say, imagine a world where people's relationships were maintained and there was amazing face-to-face communication. You can end it there, but if you've done something like given us a quotation to think about, like an inspirational quotation, you would want to add another sentence to tie it together so that people remember what the overall point of your essay was.